Welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
Mar- Mario and Daniel here. We're the Awaken Men podcast.
Mm,
Never knowing where we're going because we never plan these things out. And some
no,
people say we should plan them out. And it's like, nah. I like to go with the flow and just let it go wherever it goes.
I get feedback from people like that sometimes. They're like, if
Mm.
you were more scripted, it'd be better. And I'm like, I don't want to do all that work.
It's not even that, to me, it's if it's scripted, then I don't know, to me, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
I've
I mean,
seen so many scripted shows and it's just kind of blah.
yeah, definitely. No, I like, it's coming from the heart. It's more real
Mhm.
in the moment.
Yeah, I guess that's always a good topic that I like to talk about. In the moment, it's like in the moment. What does that mean to me? In the moment means I'm here right now, not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past. I'm thinking right here with me and my cat and you. So,
Yeah.
is that your translation of what in the moment means?
Yeah. I mean, that definitely resonates. To me, being in the moment is when you forget that time exists
Hmm.
completely. You're not looking at a clock. You're not, so it would be future past, but you're not even like when you're like having fun, right? Time flies, but that's because you're not thinking about time.
Yeah,
Like you're out of the realm of time. You're not like, I got to be here at this time. And you got to do that at moments. I'm not saying not to like be on time for your meetings. Don't be a jerk. But um, also just, yeah, forgetting about it for long periods can feel really good.
I don't know. I'm waiting. I would anxiously and would love to just be one of those things that it's all about synchronicity, right? It's like show up and everybody trusts and everybody feels comfortable. It's like, oh, you're right here. Oh, okay, so we were meant to be there. It's like, oh yeah, that kind of stuff. I wish there was more of that, but right now our society just kind of keeps it on the clock.
Yeah, I think it's changing more. I mean, there are people out there that are more flowy, and you just
Hmm.
connect with those people. And not that you wouldn't like, time is great to set up like a meeting. I mean, if
Yeah,
we didn't have a meeting, like we're going to meet at whatever time, noon, my time, then it
yeah.
wouldn't really work. But other than that, time doesn't need to be thought about.
Yeah, I mean the like a lot of people. It's interesting, being of different of two cultures because I grew up with the Mexican culture at my house, and I grew up in Mexico for a little bit, and then I came over here, and then I grew up in the American culture, and it's very interesting because in business meetings in Mexico, it's all there's you have a time to meet up, and then you just meet up, and then it's all about the relationship, and you get, and I'm talking the relationship in where the time is not as important. So if we say it's going to be an hour, well, it's not. It doesn't have to be at an hour, and we cut it. And usually there's a little bit more time or something like that. When I came here, it's like I noticed when I worked with different types of cultures like that, with somebody that grew up in. There's a lot of Mexican nationals here, so I work with a lot of people that are of Mexican culture compared to somebody that grew up in the American culture. And it's different the way time is seen. In American culture, it's very strict on the time. It's like, oh well, I got another appointment, and I just find that fascinating. How even then, time is different. Everybody sees time differently, and for me, it's challenging because sometimes I'm in conflict with my own self. It's like, oh crap, I did it. It's like, am I wanting to stay a little bit more or what? It's kind of weird. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does. Well, I mean, to me, and this is a theory, so I don't want to
Mhm.
sound racist, but it might be. Like Mexican culture is more heart centered than American culture. Like the more emotions are involved. So if you're more in the heart, you're going to be less masculine, less structured. Not that there's not masculine energy, but it's more south, and the more south you
Mhm.
go, the more heart centered it gets. To me, the more even north you go, the less laid back it gets. Probably in America. Not that south is, but it depends if you're in a city or not. But
Yeah,
so that would mean less attachment to time in general. I mean, feminine energy is just, it doesn't matter. There's no
yeah,
structure, right? So it's just like, whoa. And you need both, but um, that's definitely interesting that people are willing to be late, and it's not, to me, if people are late and I just say life happens, like, because it just does, like, you can't predict everything. And it's a weird, I mean, I think being on time is respectful, but also
we can't get really upset about it. I know what you mean, because like you said, life happens. And I notice a lot of people take it like it's a personal thing. And sometimes, I mean, traffic gets in the way. Sometimes something gets in the way. And I don't know. I always get surprised when somebody gets really upset. Like when I get people that come to my appointments late, it's like I'm kind of like, well, did you let me know? Okay, if they did, then that's fine to me, because you don't know everything out there. I mean, that's the funny part about all of this. It's like we think we control every aspect of our life, and we really don't. Time just gives us that idea that we might be able to control.
Right. Yeah, if I structure myself enough and work this many hours, then I'll achieve this results. The A plus B equals C kind of mentality. You know, there's consequences for all your actions. Not really. Like, you don't know what the consequences are. Like, there's so much more gray than that.
Yeah.
Linear way of thinking. That the fact that they're, it's the dog's gonna shake. But yeah.
Well, the dog wants to be on the podcast. I'm surprised my cat's not all over the camera right now. And I mean, the animals, I mean, they're perfect set. They go by sun, they go by nighttime. I mean, and really, they just take it easy. When they want to do something, they go do something. And I don't know, it's a little trigger for me. I don't know, when I hear it's like, well, we have all these responsibilities. It's like, well, yeah, we have some responsibilities, but if we can take care of them, it's like, if we're taking care of them, what does it matter? Why would we get stressed out knowing that we have responsibilities to do? That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Some people get really mad. It's like, we got responsibility to say, you shouldn't be doing that. And it's like, well, I don't know. Or am I overthinking that? Is that too much? What do you think?
I mean, responsibility is very subjective. So what's being responsible? And I actually had to ask my question that people were telling me I wasn't responsible. And I was like, what does that mean? And for me, it's doing the inner work and, dealing with your emotions. That's being responsible. Cleaning a room isn't responsible to me. Like, that'll happen naturally because you love yourself. But like, that's not responsibility to me. Like, there's a bunch of people that seem responsible that are like drinking whiskey in the back, and like, it depends on your definition of what that is.
Yeah. I mean, I find that interesting. Time and responsibility seems to go together. If you're on time, then you got to be responsible for your time. If you're working with somebody else on a schedule, then you're responsible to be on schedule. And I always found it interesting, especially because I do project management also. And in the project management, you always have like deadlines. It's like, by this time you have this, by this time. I don't know about other project managers, but with me, I always gave me a little window because you never knew. And I saw so many project managers that I worked with where they would like go on the last day of 30th. That's when everything gets done. And they would be stressing out. And I mean, to me, that's responsibility and time at a very structured level that I think when you put too much structure, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have some, but there's a balance. And then also, like, that's just not realistic. That's not how nature works. Nothing is on a deadline. Like, that's weird. These goal deadlines, like, animals don't have goals. Like, they have the moment they go hunt, but they know when to go hunt. Like, trees don't have goals. They're not like, I'm gonna grow this much this year, and then like, what if it snows more, and then they can't grow as much because there's not as much sun or rain. Like, they're not, the tree's not like, oh no, like, it's my fault. Like, if we just, I know I'm less stressed when I let go of goals, and it's a conditioning that it just comes up. But like, I know what to do in the moment. and the goals come out of the moment. You're like, I
Yeah.
want to, whatever, make this much money. Cool. All right. Like that's it. And then you just flow with it. But it's,
Mm-hmm.
people get so focused on like achievement that they miss the ride of getting there. And then they're not enjoying the step-by-step moments.
Yeah. And that, that's one of the things I've been coaching somebody for a little bit, and they're beginning to realize, they were in a very structured environment, and I'm talking very structured,
Right.
where they had to be at this phase at this time, or they thought they had. And then as they went through the process, they discovered that they were creating their own structure that was creating the same amount of stress. And that's the question I always find very interesting, because a lot of these people that create a lot of stress, it's their own doing.
Right.
And I find that kind of funny. Of course, some people that are at that moment in that, it's like they wouldn't find it funny, but it's kind of funny that we get stressed out about the things that we have complete control over, which is what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing we do have control over. What do we do? And I don't know. I always find it humorous about that.
I mean, think how much structure and like structuring your day is conditioned into the human psyche from like school. You're there to this time, you get out this bell. Like, we're conditioned to live like a bell by bell moment that's out of our control. And for people to actually, I watched this video recently, but ask themselves like what freedom is to them is like a new concept, because everyone's been doing what everyone else has been telling them so long that they don't even know. Like, I had a moment where I was like, I'm living out everyone else's dream. And I was a therapist and looking for a condo to buy. And I'm not that buying condos bad, but I was like, this isn't my dream.
Right.
Like, it wasn't even what I wanted. And I was like, what do I really want? Like, and I still ask myself that question, like, what is actually my dream? Like, I don't mind living in a room in a house. Like, that's fine. Like, that actually makes my life easier. And then I have to work less. And like, my dream is to be completely free of all bills, really, if I can do that. So I'm like creating abundance by lowering my bills down to nothing. Because then I don't have to really do anything. Like, then and I will. That's the ironic part. You'll just be free to choose, right? I can choose to work for a nonprofit. I can choose to run my own business. I can choose not to work. Like, I have all options because my bills are low.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my version of freedom, because, I just thought about living in a place with 2 people in a room. Like, I don't even, if it lowers my bills, like, part of me is okay with that. It's not what I'm going to do because I got to make videos. I've thought about that, but I was like, oh, but that's like how far I'm willing to go down that path of minimalism to create abundance. Now, that's not for everyone, but for me, it's totally worked. Like, I can save more money than people making $100,000. It's ridiculous. It's because I've lowered my cost of living down.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When we're in the cost of living range, it's like that's really what determines everything. And the time also, it's like I see it a lot with entrepreneurs where they say, time is money. And I can understand that, but I also disagree with it, because it's not that time is money, it's that you have to be able to be happy in what you're doing. And with that, the time starts becoming, if it's what you're enjoying and it's over like longer than you expected, or whatever you're doing. If I'm doing a project and the project takes 3 days more than the one day I predicted, if it's something I'm enjoying I might get frustrated, but I'm still enjoying it. Like, for example, the stuff I'm dealing with right now, I'm actually dealing with some websites down, and it gets to a point where, okay, I learned to let go. It's like, okay, this is what I have control over. This is what I don't have control over. And now that some of the websites are up, now I'm discovering, now it's something more specific just to me. And that I can work with that time schedule, so I can actually be able to move around and not have to stress out so much about it. And it's just, learning to be happy with what I do, because even though this stuff is taking longer than I expected, I'm enjoying it. I might get frustrated, don't get me wrong, and I get mad because sometimes it just happens like that way. But all in all, I still enjoy it.
Yeah. I got this, I don't know if it was a download or an idea or a thought, doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
but all the same things. But I was told, don't worry about how many hours you work. Worry about how much fun you have in those hours.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy it. Because if you can work 12 hours, I've had days where I've Ubered and delivered food for 12 hours and I had a good time. Like, it was actually one of the best days. And then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, sometimes I don't want to, but it's like, who cares if you work 60 hours? I mean, that's the entrepreneur life. Like, you enjoy what you're doing. Like, you're taking your time and doing what you want with it. I'd rather work 60 hours on something I enjoy or at least can tolerate than work 30 hours and 40 hours and be absolutely miserable.
You're absolutely
That's
right.
what most people are doing. Like, most people go to jobs they hate. Like, that's really the case in this world, which is bonkers to me. And I'm not saying Uber and Grubhub is like my love, but I enjoy it. Like, I sit there and watch podcasts and meditate and not meditate, but sit with myself. Like, I like aspects of it. Like, I don't hate going. People literally hate their jobs. Like, it's crazy. And I'm like, that's just nuts to me. Like, I've never done that, so I don't get it. Like, all my jobs were like, oh, I don't care if I get paid less. I'd rather enjoy what I do, or at least it gives me purpose or something. I just don't get it. It's so much. That's literally wasting your time, is going to a job you hate.
Yeah.
Nothing's wasting time more. And you're not giving anything in the world. Now you're miserable. You go to your miserable job, then you yell at people in traffic, then you go eat crappy food, then you people gotta work in the hospitals, and then you go yell at your kids because you don't like your job. Like, it's trickles.
Yeah. You know, I actually was in a job where I wasn't happy, where I was not happy with the director. And, you know, back then I wasn't as aware as I am now about myself. But one of the things that really surprised me, it's like I was not afraid to say, okay, I'm done. It's like I quit. And I went and got another job. And that was all right. But it surprised me hearing other people that were very miserable. Because even so, I left, and people stayed in the company. And you know, I made good friends there, so we would talk once in a while. They said, "How are you doing?" And I go, "Oh, I'm enjoying my new job over here." And it's like, "Oh, well, I'm still dealing with this situation over here." And it's like, "Oh, why don't you move?" Well, I don't know, blah blah blah. So there was always an excuse. And granted, you know, some of it might be limiting, but it's of finances. But sometimes our mental health is more important, in my opinion, because if not, I mean, look at our situations nowadays. A lot of it is revolving around mental health. People are stressed out.
Yeah, I think of I don't know if you know Andrew Luck as like a Pro Bowl quarterback, and he retired. And I watched a little bit of the video because he was like overwhelmed and he was just going through rehab, and he chose himself, and he retired before a season, which is I've never seen happen. Like, I used to follow sports. I don't really follow it, but like, I know who he is, and I was like, that's a change of like mindset of the culture of our country.
Yeah.
Someone willing to quit because his health just wouldn't do it. And he's like, I'm miserable. I don't even like playing anymore. I'm just in pain. He's like, I'm going to quit. Like, he's literally choosing his self over because he's going to make millions if he continued. And that's really someone that's tapped into consciousness, someone that's willing to give up millions for their happiness, because why else would you want the billions? If you're not happy with it, like, what's the point? Like, people are living more in the now, especially that generation, because he's like 20, probably 8, I think. That generation is more about living in the now. They're not willing to sacrifice the now to get retired later. They're not choosing that to retire now. But he's choosing mental health now over, let me just suffer for 4 more years to make $8 more million or whatever you make, probably $100 million, and then retire, right? He's choosing the now, which is just a change in consciousness. Yeah,
and it's interesting because I feel like we were talking a little bit earlier. It's like I do feel that it is going to be a changing. It might take a little bit of time, but it already is happening. People are trying to take care of themselves, and there's so much tension in the world right now. I mean, you see it all over the place. You see people on road rage. You see people screaming at each other. I mean, over little things that really don't even mean that much. And that somewhere in there, that bubble is going to burst, or it already bursted, and now we're seeing the residual effects of it.
Yeah, I mean, you have the most anxious, depressed Generation X. Like, they are not happy. And when they're on technology and they're stressed and they see a world that they don't want to go into, like, it's very hard, you know? They're like, oh, the world's going to get destroyed. Like, true or not, that's what they believe. So, like, of course, why would they be happy living? So creating a culture of, we'll see what happens, but something's going to happen. I mean, things are going to change for sure.
Yeah, and it does require that meditation time. It does require that time for contemplation. You know, you and I talk about it all the time about meditating, and all it means is just get some time without the TV, without the phone, and just allow your thoughts just to flow through, you know, and then eventually your mind gets tired of talking and then you get into a better place because your mind is just looking for an excuse to get you riled up.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just wants you to listen. Like, you've been ignoring yourself. And you get to the point where your thoughts aren't really you, which is when you're actually conscious. There's literally people that think their thoughts are actually all good ideas that are coming from them. Like, that's to be as bonkers, but that's actually where people live. Like, to me, my thoughts are like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, they just come from all different directions. To the point where I had this moment where I actually told my thoughts, like, this is my brain, and they stopped. It was weird. Like, stop, this is my brain. And then they went away. I was like, oh, so those are even mine. So it was like interesting. But yeah, I mean, meditation for me is everything. Like, just being by yourself and resting. And it's even if you sleep. Like, I had a day I slept all day, and I just needed, like, how tired we are, you know, running on caffeine and pushing towards our goals. And I got into that mess, and I was like, oh, God, that doesn't work. Like, I only do it for like 2 weeks, and I'm like, this achievement thing is not working.
Yeah, there's a certain point, you know, your body will talk to you, and we have to listen to it. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, I know. It's really funny because it's like we go to the extremes, right? We go, oh, my cat's getting in the way here. Sorry. We get to an extreme. There you go. How can they doubt it's not live, right? Here, this isn't edited. This is right here.
Yes.
And she made me lose track of what the hell I was saying. Never mind. Next topic.
Yeah. Yes, I forgot too. But yeah, who knows? Cats are funny.
But definitely, I mean, it's so much tension and everything. The one I still don't understand, it's like the road rage. I really don't understand. What is it about road rage? I mean, you're stuck in traffic. Why get mad at the person in front of you or behind you or something because they did something? I mean, are we that stressful of a nation now that a little like tap on the shoulder and we like beat up somebody?
I mean, I think people just feel safe. It's like the internet where they can like yell, but they know people aren't going to like fight back. So I think there's like this safety and could that people get killed in road rage accidents, but like, yeah, I think people just feel safe to express their anger, which maybe isn't bad. I don't know, but it's just weird. It's just a bizarre thing to get like mad at people and drive fast, and like, it's weird.
I find it interesting because I've seen some where some people react, and I've seen others where they all get involved. And man, it's kind of vicious sometimes. And to be that upset, I just, you know, I guess it's the whole anger thing. I mean, I guess I deal with my anger differently.
Right.
Some people but I don't bottle it up. I don't bottle it up. I let it come through. But that's the other part. And people express anger differently. It's weird saying this, but I'm a very calm, angry person. I mean, sometimes my voice races, or sometimes I get frustrated, but I've never gotten to the point where it's like raging anger. I don't know about you. Have you had anything like that?
No, I've definitely been angry. It's interesting. That's my like, if I ever feel controlled in anything, like I get really, really upset, like in a relationship, which
Mm-hmm.
when I don't, I'm fine. So it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's me taking care of myself. I have to choose my freedom. So yeah, it's definitely come up before, but it's also a way of pushing people away, which is work.
Mm-hmm.
But it only happens when I don't take care of myself. And it doesn't happen very often. It's a buildup. And usually it's because I'm a people pleaser, so that it builds up and it builds up and it builds up, which is my fault, not the other person. And
Yeah,
then
I
it
know.
explodes.
I know that well.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, but I mean, to me, anger usually is suppressed feelings. So in the psychological levels, anger is a secondary emotion. There's always emotion under it. So the more we do our inner work, the more I feel my pain, the less anger I get, or the less I'll drink alcohol, which I did in the past. And then that obviously lowers your impulsivity, but that's because I've done my own inner work and I don't want to do that. But I think people just haven't they haven't looked at their emotions. And when you haven't, you just look at all the men in our lives and how angry they've been, right? In the last two generations. Like I know my dad and his grandpa were worse, and then they just didn't deal with their emotions. So what happens? You become angry to the point where men are usually depressed through anger. So they don't actually get depressed because they're not willing to be sad. If you're willing to be, usually if I feel anger and I meditate, it goes deeper into something else.
Yeah, that's true.
Their fear or something else like that. Not that the anger is not legit. It's if I'm angry at, say, Joe because Joe yelled at someone, then it's triggering something in me that I'm angry. And then if I just go meditate, then I'll like feel it and I'll be like, oh yeah, because my dad yelled at me once and that's why I'm looking at him yelling at someone and it's making me angry. So instead of like going and fixing the problem, I go inward, and then I still could confront him, but it's going to come from a loving place.
Yeah, anger for me was really challenging. It's one emotion that I thought I was broken because I wasn't expressing anger in the same way that I saw it. Like, for example, my mom and dad would fight, and you know, I would hear them screaming and that kind of stuff, and then I see my other relatives fighting, you know, and it was like screaming, and for a while there, I didn't feel that, and I was going, "Wow, am I broken?" And then I realized I just don't deal with the anger that way. You know, I speak my emotions. I allow them to come through, and I feel them. And it doesn't mean that I'm not upset about something, or just because I'm not loud. I feel that the strength comes in the power of the words that we're saying. So if we're trying to get a message across, if we say the words to make it an understandable message, then I think it's even more powerful than the reaction of anger. At least that's my translation for it.
Well, yeah, and it sounds like, too wrong, that because you saw your probably family fight that way, you didn't want to become that. So you might have taken the opposite approach.
Yeah, I guess that's true. When because I saw it, and it's like, and I saw that it really doesn't do much. I mean, at least in my eyes, and it might do for some others, but I really didn't see it much. All it did was escalate a situation to a point that nobody really understood what each other was saying. And I'm getting that as we're talking, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's never worked. It's never resolved conflicts. I mean, that's like an old weird thing. Like, let's fight it out, and then it'll be better. Like, it's this old masculine thing where I'm like, what are you talking about? And maybe it works in those things, but like, doesn't solve the underlying issue of like, you know, that overachievement testosterone that's going through. Or people used to say this all the time, like, you need to fight in relationships for the relationship to be good. And I used to go, what are you talking about? Like, that is, the more fighting in the relationship, usually the worse it is, the less the better. And not that you want to have like no disagreements or talks, but like, there's no way that fighting is good. Like, it was weird. It was almost like people like my parents fought, so we need to fight. Like, that's really what they were saying. But most people don't know that they're really mostly dating their parents. And I've done it tons of times, and they don't even know.
It took me a while to understand that one. It's like when I heard that, it's like,
such a weird one to be in.
No way. And then I looked at it and I go, oh, damn.
I've done it more than I haven't. Like, I've noticed it over and over again, and it's so interesting. Like,
yeah, it's just weird.
It's so weird. And not that they're them exactly, but they have an energy. And usually it means you're addicted to them. So, like, when you're like, I need to call them, then you're like, oh, I'm dating my parent because I don't want to lose them. When you're not, or they've done enough work to not be them, then you don't, like, feel this weird, like, I need to be with them or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different feeling.
Yes.
People, yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of self-vulnerability and honesty to say, yeah, like, the last relationship I was in, I definitely dated my dad because it was, like, wasn't wrong, but, like, I felt, like, very, like, neglected in the relationship. Like, there wasn't much communication, and it would be, like, disappear. And then when I left her, because I meditated a lot, and then I decided to leave her, and then I cried for 3 days. I'm like, oh my God. I wasn't even mad about her leaving her. I was like, by me saying no to that, I was saying no to my dad's neglect, and I wasn't trying to fix it, and I just bawled. And I was like, holy crap. It was perfect. I had to go through it to heal. So, like, I think this is, like, the universe is perfect with that. I'm not saying not to do it.
Right.
And it was like, holy cow. And I'm doing the inner work, and it still happens. So people not doing the inner work are just doing it and then drinking beer every time they come home, so they don't have to look at it.
That's the vices, that it's like whenever something we don't want to confront, it's like, oh, let's go watch TV, let's go drink, let's go have drugs or smoke a joint or something. Yeah, I find that always funny also. I've never been one about escaping into chemicals like that, but it's been interesting to see it, because even when I started in the shamanic work, it's like it was more for a healing way. When I use plant medicine on it, we have the shaman, and it was never about escaping. And I can't say I didn't try it, but I mean, it was interesting because I just couldn't find myself in that. It's like, no, it's not for me.
Yeah. I think I use alcohol to be social, and I think it actually helped me in the time because I just couldn't talk to people. But yeah, I mean, learning to do without it's better for sure. There's no doubt. And calming yourself down without marijuana or cannabis is good. Like, that's what meditation does. You'll be surprised when most people, when they stop smoking cannabis, which I've noticed, is then they end up working out. Like, they have to replace it with something even healthier because they don't get that calm anymore, and they're, like, used to being calm, which is what it teaches us. Like, I don't think cannabis is bad. I mean, if you're going to choose one or the other, like, please, like, America needs to smoke more weed. It needs to calm down. But if people aren't going to meditate and, do yoga or exercise, then let's at least give them something else. But, yeah. But once you stop, if you've had that feeling, you want that feeling again. So then you go to something that does it. So usually a lot of people exercise a lot or do something to replace it. They have to, or go in nature or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's always something that replaces something else, because that's the part, that's what I liked about the 10-day Vipassana meditation. The only person that has any control over you is yourself. And it's all volunteer, and you don't pay for it. It's donation based. At the end of it, you donate whatever you feel is right for you. And you can come and go as much as you can leave at any time. They won't keep you there. They're not going to convince you to stay there. And for me, it really showed me, it's like, okay, who am I? It's like, do I really want to stay through this? And it made me really look at myself of who I am. And not be, because you didn't have TV or journaling, so I had no other thing. So I really had to sit with myself and really learn, what do I like and what don't I like when I'm on my own.
Right.
Which I think is a lot of people can't do. So some people can't do that unless they're drinking or smoking pot or doing something, one or the other, a vice, or even exercising. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think that at least gives people something. I mean, I think fishing, I'm like, oh, I used to work with clients, and they weren't going to meditate. Like, I just knew. And I'm like, but do you go fishing or something? And they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, like hiking. I'm like, well, I'll do that. Like, that's close. I mean,
Mhm.
you're sitting in nature, silent. I'm like, you're doing this. But other than that, like, you're meditating. So I'm like, just go do that. And that's, I
That's
think,
good.
whatever it is perfect.
Mhm.
If you ride a bike or whatever, like, that's amazing to me. You're still with yourself.
Mhm.
Unless you're like listening to something the whole time. But even driving, like
Oh,
driving in
yeah.
silence is a huge one, or at least with like music that doesn't take your attention. So like, you know, some kind of meditation type music or instrumental music, because
Mhm.
it doesn't like pull you in. Certain music pulls you back out, right?
Yeah.
Jam bands teach you this. They'll pull you in with the lyrics and they let you go back into yourself
Mhm.
jamming. So, and that really helps people too. You'd be surprised how much driving in silence would change the world if everyone did it at once.
Yeah, I remember when I was really busy in my busy days, it's like I would always have my radio on, the phone was always uh, on messages, everything was pinging and beeping and stuff. And now it's like I find myself more at peace when I turn off the radio, especially in the car. And it does help me get centered, and I'm not listening to music that's distracting to me. Sometimes I listen to classical music. Sometimes I listen to new age, or even sometimes to some electro or techno without any lyrics. Which
Yeah,
to me that kind of like helps me relax.
right. There's nothing wrong with like reading stories and stuff too, but
No.
at least you're learning. But I think there's such a learning with being with yourself that you don't even know.
Yeah.
It's self-awareness is more important than how much information you know. Information's important, but if without self-awareness, it's pointless.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't. Those two go together. It's like if you're not aware, then anyway. Uh, Always good topics here.
Yes.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, audience. We're definitely wrapping it up now. Uh, Daniel, do you have any outgoing message you would like to tell our audience here?
I mean, I think I like the last one. Just find times of silence or times to breathe. Doesn't have to, I mean, meditating for 4 hours like I've been doing is better, but like if you can't, like just find those little moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And definitely just find some quiet time. Turn
I say
everything
it every
off.
time. It's the same message, but
Yeah, it's the same message, but how many are you doing it?
right. We gotta tell
So,
people a million times.
so
That's what they say, right? Tell people like 8 times and they'll do it.
well, hopefully you guys are doing some practicing. Our podcast is helping you out in one way or another. We always welcome comments, subscribe, send us a message, just do whatever. But just make sure your mental health is getting better out there, because we don't want you being on road rage out there.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you again. Thank you, Daniel. And we'll talk to you guys next time on the Awaken Man podcast.